let's talk about Love Island. Hi guys, what's up? It's Tahira. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below and join the fam. I make a lot of fun videos, including this video. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm finally gonna get to talk about my #1 obsession every summer like clockwork, Love Island. I have been an OG. Okay, wait. As an American, can I claim OG when it comes to Love Island? No, but I've been watching since maybe the season before Molly May went on. What season was that in the UK? I've been watching for some time. Like, I remember me and like my booktube friends, shout out to the Unfriendly Black Hotties, we literally would be on Zoom, on FaceTime every night watching Love Island. Like 5 nights a week, we were watching it in real time, dissecting it. Like it was a thing. Honestly, I think I'm so attached to Love Island because of the pandemic. So I was like, what do you mean a reality TV show 5 nights a week? I was like, there's another episode? Another one? Let's just say I was like quickly obsessed. And I was obsessed for a multitude of reasons. As someone who is neurospicy, I realized that something I've done my entire life is observe people, like study people. A thought that I've constantly had since I was a child is like, is this what normal people do? And this is before I even had like the language of being neurodivergent. I guess I just knew instinctually that I was different and that there was a disconnect between how I would think or talk or behave and like compared to other people. So media in general has always allowed me to kind of get a glimpse into the life of the neurotypical, of like normal quote unquote people, whatever that means. And so I've just always like hyper consumed media. I'm somebody that I feel like when I'm watching something, I transport myself into it. Like if you've ever watched a TV show, a movie with me, like you would literally think I'm the main character. Like if the main character is hurt, I'm in pain. If the main character is crying, I'm crying. And so reality TV and like reality dating shows specifically really itches a certain like scratch in my brain, especially because like as a Muslim girl, as a Muslim girl, I don't have dating experience like everyone else, which is fine, but it's interesting to kind of get, like I said before, an insight into like, oh, this is what the rest of the world got going on. Interesting. And I feel like it's been more common nowadays, like on TikTok, for people to talk about how they view like reality dating shows as like a sociology experiment. Like you're really just, or like a psychology experiment, you're really just seeing the human psyche, socio-political ideas, beauty standards, desirability, all of that in real time. And something specifically about Love Island is so unique because I feel like unlike any other dating show, it captures real life like in such a poignant but like messy way. And I think that's why we love it, because it's real. Like you can definitely see yourself as a Janae, as a Serena, as a Leah, as a, you know what I mean? Like you can see yourself in these characters because in real time you've experienced it. Even the fact that like I have a few friends who are just now watching Love Island and they're like, is this happening this summer? I'm like, girl, yeah, they just left the island. Same way you're outside dealing with like mandem, saying the wildest stuff, the girls are in the villa hearing the craziest things. It's like, it's just, I don't know, like it just really hits different. And so yeah, I have realized that I don't talk as much about my love of media and like dissect it with you guys as much as I would want to, because like when I was posting on my stories me reacting to different clips of Love Island, when I started I was watching US and UK at the same time, but obviously like everybody else I dwindled on UK. You know, spoiler alert, shout out to my girl Mimi won. Spoiler alert, because like girl, the reunion is coming up any day now. The reunion is gonna be August 19th, so inshallah I will have this up and edited around the week that the reunion comes out. But yeah, so for the first time ever we have an all-black couple in UK and US, which I love that for us. Oh, I was saying that like I was watching them both at the same time, and like eventually like UK dwindled, but US has like quickly captured the entire world by storm. And so when I was posting my reactions to it live, like on my Instagram stories, which if you don't follow me on Instagram, what are you doing? Follow me everywhere on the internet at Sincerely Tahiri, obviamente. If you want to hear like quick thoughts about my opinions and stuff, TikTok is where I just be like yapping, and Instagram has like all of my aesthetics and like fashion, book, makeup, travel stuff, and like I'm on my stories every day, so go follow me. But yeah, so when I was posting about it, people were really surprised to hear that I watch Love Island. And I was like, what else do you think I do in the summer? Like, I don't know. I love girlhood and I love the shared experience of Love Island. So when the girls were like, we didn't know you watched Love Island, I said, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not telling my business as much as I should. Bet. So I came to deliver, you know, like you asked and I answered. What's up? We here. Get mine. This video is going to be about what I learned from this season of Love Island USA and really how class was in session. The girls were teaching us how to stand on business, how to uphold our boundaries, how to not settle. And I just wanted to dissect it because I know I'm not the only person who felt like something was so different this season. And you guys really like when I talk about love. Shout out to all the people that watched the Confessions of a Black Muslim Lover Girl video. Already had 10K views. Crazy that me sitting here on my bed with some pink lights and some eye patches talking about how lonely I am. The girls related, but stay tuned. We have a lot more like fun lover girl stuff coming up. But yeah, so in this video, I'm just gonna be ranting about my thoughts on this season and what I think all girls, especially women of color, especially Black women, can take away, and especially for Muslim girls as well, can take away from this season. Let me just give my thoughts on the main cast real quick. I'm only going to think about the people that really stood out this season. So in regards to PPG, Powerpuff Girls, my bookies, hot take, I'm not a big fan of Leah. And I know the girls are going to be very upset about that. I don't hate Leah. I just think Leah has a lot more work to do before I am able to stand her, specifically in regards to her lying and also like her dynamics with women when men are involved. It got a little shaky for me, but I don't hate Leah. Like I feel like out of 10, I give Leah a 6. My top 2, Janae and Serena, because everything I ever do is for Black women. Like I do everything for the girls. Like Black women, mwah, para siempre. Casting did their big one with this. Like absolutely, I love them. We're gonna get into more thoughts on them later, obviously. Okay, Nicole made it to Final 4. I'm indifferent about her. Don't really have an opinion on her. I liked her more as the show went on. I completely related to her at the end where she was like hesitant to tell Kendall that like she loved him. I get it. Speaking of Kendall, good child. You heard me talk about how much I love Black women 2 seconds ago. How do you think I feel about Kendall? And just in general, the revolving door of Black men who could care less about Black women. How do you think I felt about them? Yeah. Kendall, I did not like at all until the end with Nicole, where he was like, I understand that you need time, and I will be here until you feel comfortable, saying I love you no matter how long it takes. I'm here for you. He got brownie points from me for that. But literally the entire season, no me importa. Same how I felt like Leah was in. Miguel is a loser, and like I cannot believe that like the entire internet is eating him up. First of all, this is just a light-skinned man from Ends. You know what I mean? Like this is just a light-skinned biracial North African man from Ends. It's nothing special about Miguelito. Okay, and as a girl that jumps in and out of accents, Miguel pissed me off majority of the show. I'm like, bro, shut up. Like, you're not funny. You're literally not funny. Shut up. Yeah, I understand why so many people like, ooh, this is gonna get messy. I get the girls that like Leah. Of course y'all like Miguel. And I do think Leah and Miguel make sense as a couple because they're both toxic. I don't think Leah has super high standards and she likes mess. And I think she also likes letting men feel like they are in control. She likes letting men think that like things are their ideas or that they're like so much smarter. Like I remember during a recoupling, she said that Miguel was so wise and she learned so much from him. Miguel, wise, wisdom, yeah. Okay. I did not like him. He had a lot of slick remarks to make. And you could just tell that he, in typical like light-skinned F-boy behavior, is not interested in accountability, is not really interested in equitable, respectable relationship. I think he likes girls a little bit insecure. Hence why he got Leah. That's my thoughts. How did I forget my top 2s and they're men? Oh my God. Cordell, my baby, my little bro. I deeply love Cordell, and I feel like there's something so admirable about his journey, and there's something so like innocent about him. It reminds me of when certain of my like married friends who have been married since they were like teenagers or whatever, they all make the joke that like getting your man while he's young is, this sounds so crazy, but like do not take this literally, but basically like being with their partners while they were young was the best thing for their relationship, because by their husband spending time with them and being in a relationship with a woman who has like standards and who loves herself and respects herself, they learn to respect women and they weren't so involved in like the misogyny and patriarchy of the world because they had a wife to go home to. I can see why that makes sense, because I think Cordell naturally loves Black women. I think he naturally respects women. I don't think he went about things the right way, obviously, but I think that respect that he had was there, and he's maintained it the entire show, even when the men in the show were saying like, don't respect Serena, do your, like encouraging him to be disrespectful. For the most part, he tried to hold on to that respect. And so I just think about Cordell. We're going to get into more of them later, but like Cordell, love him down. Kenny. Oh my God, my Dominican king from the Bronx, Kenny, ya tú sabes, que lo que, dime, like, dímelo. What are we talking about? I love Kenny. When Janae came on the show in her interview, and she said, I like my man obedient and introverted. That's my type, nigga. That's my type. That's my type, nigga. Exactly. Las chicas que lo entienden, tú sabes. Like, the girls that get it, get it. And so when Kenny came in, I was not pressed by him at all. Like, didn't he come in with Hakeem? He came in with two other people that I was like, eh. But Kenny is my favorite guy. I feel like Kenny, similar to Cordell, men that really have a deep sense of appreciation from women, specifically stemming from like women in their community, women in their houses, they move different, and you can tell the difference in like their etiquette and their mentality compared to men that don't have that same deep sense of respect and understanding for women. You could tell that like Kenny came from a household with like a mother that he was super close with, and like y'all know how Latino mothers are, and just in general they are also marginalized women. And I think that Kenny, growing up with a single mother, especially in a city like New York, a deep, like I keep saying, like a deep respect, admiration for women, and that carries across in his whole dating experience. I also love that he was literally the most mature man on the show. That's why when Leah was saying wisdom and was talking about Miguel, I was like, Miguel is an idiot. Kenny is the only person that has sense. And the scene that told me everything I needed to know was movie night, because here go Miguel telling the men you did nothing wrong. He's Aki Keen in the corner laughing. You can find in any argument in the show, Miguel is in the background saying the girls are wilding out, the guys did nothing wrong, no matter what, even about himself. Kenny, very obviously, during movie night and throughout the show, was not with a lot of the weirdness that the men were doing. Good sign. That's a good sign. I'm not saying men shouldn't be in community with each other. They should be. But the idea that like y'all are doing inappropriate things, I'm not going to be around that. That's a good sign. A man that is not super like swayed by the thoughts and opinions of other men, mwah, love it. No notes. Shout out to Liv. Honorable mention for Liv. I'm actually really annoyed that she left. The idea that Roberto, who we're going to get into in a second, Robert and Kane, Liv kept Kane, brought him from Casa Amor, just for the next recoupling, he gonna couple up with Sierra, and then Rob, who for a whole episodes actually was making jokes and like teasing us, like, yeah, like actually Liv looks so good, and oh my gosh, maybe me and Liv could really do something. You gonna send Liv home to keep Daniela, who you dumped the week after that. Like, oh God, like you could just tell that like Robert was a plant. Anyway, Liv, I loved her. The first few episodes, I didn't know what was going on. You could tell that like she had a really high ego. It came across as ego just because of the way she went about with Rob and Leah, but I look at that differently now, seeing the entire season. What I thought was ego was really just a woman that was sure of herself and knew her boundaries and knew her self-worth, and she didn't take no shit, and I really appreciated it. Like, she's a sharpshooter. I love it. I respect it. And Leah was really the voice of reason in the house. She was the like inner conscience, the woman's intuition for the women in the show. Like, even if the women decided to allow their men to act in a certain type of way, Liv at least let it be known that like you deserve better, and like would say the quiet part out loud. And I respect that, especially from a white woman. No shade, but like in America, white women are not raised to really be like advocates of anyone. I think all BIPOC women know that like as loud as white women are about feminism, when men get in the room, white women are not on our team. I mean, not to make this political, but hence why like literally white women are the only oppressed group that still vote Republican, still vote conservative, like even against their own rights. When men are in the room, white women are nowhere to be found in regards to solidarity. So I was very surprised that Liv was a white woman I stood 10 toes down behind. Roberto. I'm tired. I'm tired. I didn't even say anything. I'm tired. So I felt very conflicted with Rob, because on one end, Rob come in and I'm like, you know, holding that first gaze for a little bit. And then every other time I see him, I want to smack him. Like, he'll be on screen looking fine, and then 2 seconds later I'm like, bro, somebody hit him. Like, I just want to take my slipper and like really just, you know, I felt that way about him the entire season. Every minute I thought I liked him, he did something, said something that made me hate him. And that challenge that happened where they were reading tweets, and the tweet was like, y'all think that this islander is like so fucking deep and intellectual or whatever, and he's really just like stupid, or like he really has nothing to say, he ain't nothing special. Yes, that is literally Rob. A whole nother conversation about how women like this idea about figuring out a man, or like, you know, women being in love with potential instead of what's like very apparent in front of them. And you know what's interesting though? Watching Rob throughout the season, like he unmasked like most men, I realized that nowadays, I'm not victim blaming. I'm not blaming women too much. Like, obviously, like everybody, there's a sense of accountability that everybody has to have. But I realize nowadays that men are not lying or hiding their BS as much anymore. You know, I'm thinking about like the 90s, early 2000s, like my mama and my daddy generation. You would find out that this man had another girlfriend, or he already had a secret baby mama. Like they was lying. You know what I mean? Like they were lying. Nowadays, men will look you in your face and be like, yeah, so for the first date, I'm gonna take you on a walk. Or like men will look you in your face, you'll ask them what are their goals, and they'll be like, I don't have any goals, Rob. Can you imagine saying that to a girl? I have no goals, no ambitions. And a girl being like, oh my God. I don't even think these niggas know how to lie anymore. Like, you just have to wait and see, and all will be revealed in due time. Rob was a perfect example of that. And you could just watch him, like, episode by episode, the truth kind of comes out. You could tell that he was somebody that was performing in a lot of different ways. Girl, that that jump in the pool, bye. I'm not a girl that likes to use the word sassy, because I do think that in a lot of ways, it comes across as like very homophobic, but also it doesn't leave space for men to just like be human and have a full range of emotions. Like a man having an attitude is just a nigga having an attitude. It takes a lot for me to call a man sassy. Rob, very close. Muy cerca. What else I want to talk about? Let me talk a little bit more about the OG cast. Koi? Like sometimes a man is just tall, like just tall, dark, and handsome, and that's it. You be like, oh my gosh, cute. Halas, nada más. Like there's nothing else we need to talk about. We're gonna get more into Koi later because I'm gonna actually break down like my thoughts about like the recouplings and all of that. Connor, loser, 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 loser. Loser, like loser, absolutely a loser. Hakeem, loser. How many times did Hakeem get up on my television and say I like dark hair and light complexion? And here's my issue when men talk about preference. I think you can like whatever you like. Obviously, I don't have to agree with whatever you like, but that's your business. That's your right, right? My issue though is when men, and specifically black men, I have to add a caveat. When they say preference, a lot of men mean that like no other women exist or deserve respect or even like are allowed personhood. It's like, oh, I just thought you meant like this is your favorite thing, not that this is the only thing you like, and that anybody that does not fit into this thing isn't even a person. I didn't know that's what that meant. Like I have a preference, right? Like physically, emotionally, whatever, like personality wise, I have traits that I prefer, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing I'm attracted to, nor does it mean I'm not open to exploring things with like other things that I'm attracted. Like it's not just this one thing and nothing else exists. Like there's a range, and I just feel like Hakeem is a perfect example. Is like when black men talk about, oh my God, I have a preference. It's like, okay. And it was funny watching Hakeem because your preference didn't prefer you. Now what? Now what? Oh my God. Forgettable. How did I figure about Kaylor and Aaron? Once again, I don't like using the word sassy, but there was definitely a couple of men on the show that I was like, you don't like women or you don't prefer women, because bi men exist. You don't prefer women and you don't like women on like a personal level, not like a romantic, like I mean like as people. Aaron was one of those people, like a perfect example of when women make the joke that like men love their bros but they tolerate, like they don't like women. Yeah, I don't think Aaron liked Kaylor. He loved Rob, was crying for Rob, was about to end it all for Rob. Like that was crazy to witness. And Kaylor, just young and dumb, just young, dumb, and blonde. No shade. We'll get into the dynamics next, but I just want to give like that wasn't even fast. That was 20 minutes of just like my thoughts on like the most memorable characters that come to my characters. Girl, this is real life. This is not a telenovela. Now let's get into the couplings. Let's get into the couples. Let's talk about their dynamics, the recoupling, all of that. Like many of us from the first recoupling, it became so apparent that this season was going to be unlike anything else. This season stood itself apart immediately. And I don't know if the impact was the same for non-Black women, but the fact that Janae and Koi like coupled up together, whatever, you know, this Black couple, you know, hashtag Black love. And first recoupling, Janae sends Koi home. Koi, who is the epitome of Black masculinity. He's 6'6". God, Lord have mercy. 6'6", tall, chocolate, beard. You know what I mean? Like peak Black male masculinity, right? Janae, a dark-skinned Black woman who is beautiful, bad in her own right, sent him home for a white man. Woo, girl. I literally don't laugh at me. If you laugh, it's anti-black. I'm not even. I'm dead ass. When Janae was sitting up there crying, I cried because I think it is similar to like other Black women across the diaspora and like other women of color, but African American women are bred with this idea of saving the Black man, Black love, struggle love, and not holding Black men to the same like standards of masculinity that you would any other men. You know, it's making concessions in regards to the love and the care that you deserve or you want from a partner because you understand sociopolitically, economic, we know what has happened to Black men. And so Black women are taught to be okay with less, especially when they're dealing with Black men. If that's not your experience, great. But the vast majority of like African American women can attest to this, that like this is how we've been taught. And I will say that in general, if a Black man was raised with sense, if he comes from a 2-parent household, he probably also was raised with this idea of Black love. Not in the same way about like making concessions for Black women, but definitely Black love is a big thing. So the fact that like Janae chose Coy in the beginning wasn't a shock to me. And I think a lot of people, me included, it's like sometimes when I hear how certain Black people speak, I don't know where they line culturally, like if they also feel a part of Black culture in a certain type of way. And for me, that's very important for anybody that I like, anybody that I admire. Not saying all Black people act the same or talk the same, but you should be aligned with Blackness, in my opinion. In my opinion. I was pleasantly surprised that she chose Coy, but it was very obvious that Coy didn't feel like he had to work for her. And I think because of his height and whatever, I think even Ariana Madix asked him the first episode, like, are you used to this reception from women? Because it was Serena, Hannah, I didn't like Hannah. Serena, Hannah, and Janae like stepped up for Coy, and he was like, yeah, I am used to this. For me, I would have stepped right off that podium. I'm not into that. So like him and Janae are together, and Coy didn't feel like he had to try for her at all. Like if you look at clips of Coy throughout the villa, he's just sitting there chilling. Like the episode I think that he got eliminated, he's talking to Serena and he's talking to other people, watching Janae talk to Connor and observing her not fiending over him. And he was like to Serena, oh, so what she be talking about? What's she trying to say about me and her? Nigga, why don't you get up and go ask her what the hell she got to say? And you could tell that he's trying to bait her to ask certain questions because he does not have the cojones to ask certain things himself. I cannot stand it. You're not happy, say that. If you have a problem when you're talking to Connor, say that. Instead of being like, oh no, I'm good. How about you? Oh yeah, really? So tell me more about that. Nigga. That was my first red flag with Coy, when he was like, yeah, this happens to me often. I'm not into it. But then the way that he was so laissez-faire about approaching Janae, having conversations with her, and talking about her, around her, but not talking to her, not into it. And that challenge where they were talking about body count at 150, dirty boy. You're further. I'm sorry. I knew a lot of the men were going to say something hypocritical. Like, we know what misogyny is. That was crazy that he, with his whole chest, is talking about, yeah, she's an effing liar, but you have 150. Even if she lied about maybe 5, you have double, not even triple, not even quadruple what she had. It just speaks volumes to the very clear double standards that society has for men and women, but specifically Black women and Black men. Like I keep saying, like, I don't know if other POC understand, like, looking at Janae and Coy's dynamic, but a lot of Black women, like I said, are taught to just accept whatever, especially if you have a fine man, like a conventionally attractive Black man. Literally, you're taught, just be happy he's here. These are things that have been said verbatim to me, to women, to my friends, to like women in our community, like literally just be happy the nigga is there. It moved me to tears when Janae was up there crying and she sent Coy home. Maybe because of her like diverse upbringing, like she was raised an army brat, so she was like in Asia for a lot of her life. So maybe that programming is not that strong within her, which I'm very happy about, but it's rare for Black women to not immediately zero in on a Black man and like ride 20 toes down for them. Not only just in real life, but also on national television. Hello, look at Love Island UK with Mimi and Io. Black women love Black men, period. I was saying this the other day with friends because, oh my gosh, y'all, I went on a date in Amsterdam. I'll talk about that on the membership. If you don't know, I have a membership which is like similar to Patreon. Pay $2.99 a month for extra content for me. I have a video series of me reacting to Bridgerton. I have live streams on there, all of that. I'll do a story time about that on membership. But yeah, I went on a date with this guy in Amsterdam, and he had the nerve to try to tell me that like black women do not like black men. And that was crazy because no matter how much black women say niggas ain't shit, they'll say niggas ain't shit with a nigga right next to them. Black women would say, oh, like niggas ain't shit, and be on their third baby from this man. Like, be for real. Like, women just be talking. Be for real. Anyway, black women love black men. And I know it was hard for Janae to send Koi home, but she had to honor herself, and she knew what she deserved. And like the minute she did it, it gagged me, bitch. It shocked me. And I was so proud of her, because I myself, in a similar situation, I was talking to this guy. I mentioned him in the Confessions of a Black Muslim Lover Girl video. It was like my first official courtship, because you know, Muslims, we court, you know, think Bridgerton. It was like my first official courtship, and he was a sweet guy, but he wasn't the guy for me, and I knew that. But I had people in my family be like, girl, he's good enough. And I was like, well, no. And when it was obvious that I had to break things off, it was emotional for me, not because of him, but because you feel that imposter syndrome of like, how dare I as a black woman have standards? How dare I want not just goodness but greatness? How dare I want not just greatness but excellence? How dare I not, you know what I mean? Like, how dare I not seek a partner who I actually desire, who's aligned with me and who gives me the love that I deserve in the way that I receive it best? I felt so unworthy to make that decision, but alhamdulillah, I'm so happy that I did. And I know Janae was happy that she did too. But here's what really sent me. Y'all know I love Cordell. Janae sent this man home, and Cordell is gonna sit there and be like, can I ask why you sending him home? What y'all say? Never in the history of Love Island have I seen more men standing up and talking about defending other men at the recoupling. I ain't never seen men beg for men to stay like I did on Love Island. I said, what? And that just, once again, speaks volumes to the nonsense that goes on in real life. Like I said before, I'm not saying that men don't deserve companionship and partnership with each other. What I'm saying though is like, we know what male friendships are. It's not real, hence like the loneliness epidemic. And a lot of it is not based on actual companionship. It's like being bonded over bad behavior. It's bonding over getting over on women. Now watching the show, like I know Cordell has such like little brother syndrome. You could tell that he really like admired Koi. But yeah, so I know that Cordell was asking because he, you know, was deeply looking to like replicate the big brother relationship that he has with Odell Beckham Jr. But it kind of signified to me the way that like when black women make decisions like that are for the betterment of themselves, especially if it's not necessarily for the betterment of other people, the whole community has something to say. You're gonna answer for that. People are gonna want to know. And apparently Koi's mom was on Instagram talking crazy about Janae. I know he's a mama's boy, and I know she was probably just like, oh my god, like she didn't even give my son a chance, and like these women expect so much, and like, you know, it takes a while for him to open up and da-da-da. I understand taking a moment to open up, but like look at Serena and Cordell. Even though people have opinions, they feel like Serena did never really like Cordell, blah blah blah, whatever. Serena was vocal about her communication struggles, and she actively was trying, and that was very apparent. Cordell and Serena had a friendship from day one. Koi and Janae weren't even speaking. Like, I'm so sorry, you can't sit here and use the I have communication issues excuse and not at least follow it up with effort. That's really the thing. That laissez-faire, whatever, laid back energy, I don't care about anything, eventually turns into ire and rage. As we've seen on the internet, Koi has been talking about Janae nonstop since he left the villa, talking about Janae wouldn't choose a man like Kenny in real life. Based off what? Based off what? There is, in the black community and in America, this idea light-skinned men, mixed men, are not considered as masculine as dark-skinned men. And so I'm not surprised that Koi was like, this little pretty boy, like, Janae don't like him. You know, like, I don't think he really views him as much as a man as he is. Y'all don't know, I do socio-political, historical, like, commentary on the side. So that's gonna always come up in these videos. I was just kind of like dissecting all of this, like seeing all of these like deep-rooted, unspoken themes in the black community come up on the show. And that is one of my biggest critiques of Love Island. Obviously, yes, y'all are stuck on an island together. People have to make nice, but there's a lack of accountability from even the good men to the men that do problematic things. And I think this lack of accountability also carries on with producers. Like, I don't know if y'all remember that season of Love Island UK where it was the girl who was half deaf and the guy Mitch. Was it Mitch? Not Mitch. What was his name? Oh my God. That was Damian India's season, because the men were wild in that season. They were absolutely like on 10, such blatant bullying and misogynoir that so many fans wrote in. You could tell the producers stepped in because it was so bad. Men on the show do not hold each other accountable. They love saying like, you didn't see all sides of him. Like even Janae was talking about Aaron and was like, he's a nice guy, I didn't give him the... I don't understand how in your qualifications for friendship, men don't consider how another man treats women or treats people in regards to like, does he make the cut for should we be close? Should we be friends? I don't get it. That separating the art from the artist, I'm not even really into. And this is why, because you make so much excuses, like to the point where even in real life, men make excuses for abusers, for men who hit women, who murder women, like all types of excuses. And the Muslim community, we see it all the time. Men will get up on TikTok and bend over backwards to defend their favorite fake ass dawah bro that have no ounce of like respect or rahmah or care for Muslim women, for anti-blackness in the Muslim community. They have no care for how children are treated and taken advantage of in the Muslim community. They have nothing to say about how poor people don't feel at home. People don't even feel comfortable in the masjid. They have nothing to say about that. They would bend over backwards to defend their favorite imam who got caught being nasty. Please, like, raise the bar off the fact that y'all joked. Allow it, fam. Like, allow it. Anyway. So yeah, Koi leaves and Janae couples up with Connor. I want to talk about Janae and Connor for 2 seconds because this summer for me has really been about like learning to shoot my shot, and not even just shooting my shot, but just feeling comfortable taking up space and feeling comfortable talking to men. A lot of Muslim women may disagree with that. That's fine. That's your opinion. I'm not having no conversations with no man that I wouldn't have in front of any other person, whatever. Yeah, but just in general, like not treating men like they're aliens, like just having normal interactions with men as something as simple as like having a friendly conversation with an Uber driver, or like if there's like a male cashier and just being like, oh, thank you, like have a good day, like, you know, cute little banter, little joke, maybe a little cheeky smile, nothing crazy. But also in regards to like actual romantic contenders, you know, because your girl is of course wanting to get married, inshallah, I've had to learn how to talk to men, and a lot of that for me as a black curvy girl, as a hijabi, as somebody who is naturally outspoken, like men have been intimidated by me my entire life. This is not a flex, or like this is just a fact that I'm just saying. Like when I tell people I don't have men in my DMs, it's always a shock. When I tell people that like this date in Amsterdam, which I'm not even really counting as a date anymore because it was so crazy, was my first ever date, people are like, what? Like many amazing black women are constantly slept on and overlooked in the dating world, and many black Muslim women are constantly overlooked in the marriage market. That's just this idea that like you're so great you should be wifed up. It's actually the opposite nowadays. I'm no shade to like women that are in, I'm not saying that like, oh, all those women are easy. I'm just saying that like black women are held to different standards, and because of those different standards and a lot of the stereotypes and misconceptions and beliefs that people have about black women, were often last to be considered. So I realized that I am going to have to step outside of my comfort zone just a bit to combat those beliefs that people have about me. I talked about this on TikTok. So many black women are humbled throughout their life. Like as a child, you're taught to like dim your light and be more quiet and make space for other people. Or if you are quiet, it's like, oh, you have a resting bitch face. Like we're never just allowed humanity. Not that it's our job to dispel that, but I just wanted to stop being held back by perceptions of me, you know, especially like as a hijabi, people have this idea that like, oh my God, like, ooh, she's talking to a man. And I've talked about this on my Instagram, but like black people across the diaspora, black Muslims across the diaspora do not have the same weird, strict gender separations as like non-black Muslims. It's pretty normal to like go to the masjid and like you give salams to a brother that you see. That's very normal in black communities. And because, you know, racism, people take their stuff and start projecting it onto us. I don't even have this belief that I can't have a conversation with a man. I don't even believe that. But I was so scared in a lot of ways to just speak and just move. And I think, you know, all of our generation is really struggling with being perceived and being vulnerable and wanting love. And spoiler alert, I'm going to make a podcast because of course I'm going to make a podcast talking about love and relationships and desire and sex and like all of that. Like, of course, stay tuned. But yeah, like so many of us are struggling with just like admitting to ourselves and admitting out loud or showing that we're interested, that we want something. And so for me, shooting my shot and talking to men has come from a place of self-care. This is not really about him. This is about me. Like my feelings and my desires are important and I have a right to express them. And if they're received, well, they are. And if they're not, we move. And I think similar to like consent, like interest can be given and withdrawn at any time. You can't embarrass me or shame me because I pursued you, because the minute that you give me the ick, I'd be like, who? There's a few men that I've approached like this summer, just in general, like try to talk to them or whatever. And if I found out something I didn't like, I just unfollow them. And it's like, who? Like, and we move, you know, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, podcast episode on this coming another day. My one little tip for Muslim women, if you are watching this, every interaction with a man does not mean that he's going to be your husband. And we need to take men off of the pedestal that we have them on. Like he's just a person. they're just people. Just say hi. Like, that's that. So Janae was really interesting for me because, like I said, I think it was because of how she was raised. Janae is somebody you can tell moves in certain spaces, specifically with non-Black people, and she knows that they have perceptions of her because she's a dark-skinned Black girl. She knows this, right? Yes, I think her bubbly personality is genuine, but I also think that she knows that, like, there's certain allowances that she is not given because she is a dark-skinned Black girl. Like, I noticed that when the thing with KaNa happened, which I will get more into that a little bit later, but when they fell out, she wasn't talking about KaNa as much as she should have. And if you watch Janae, you know, especially now, post interviews, Janae has a mouth on her. Janae was not allowed to say certain things on the show because I think she knows how she would be perceived as a dark-skinned Black girl. Like, look at how they tried to paint Serena. You know what I mean? So I was watching Janae and, like, studying, especially when she approached KaNa, because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sure I'm not the only person. For the girls that feel like I want a man to approach me, don't you already take a man not approaching you as a rejection? Right. And so seeing Janae, knowing that, like, KaNa was talking to Kaylor and she just pulled him for a chat, that alone shocked me. I'm also from New York. I got a New York ego. So I'd be like, oh, out of here, nigga. Are you dumb? It's up and it's stuck. Just because I'm like, oh, he didn't approach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm working on it. Pray for me. I'm working on it. I'm cognizant. I'm self-aware. Step one. Seeing her even express interest to a man that wasn't, like, super gung-ho over her was so interesting to see. I know a lot of people will say, like, oh, that's thirsty, but I don't think that's thirsty. I just think it was badass. Like, I respect women that go after what they want. I talked about this in real life with men, and I've noticed it on Love Island repeatedly. The number one thing that gets that turns a man's head is a really, like, confident, solid approach. Like, the men will always be like, whoa, I didn't even notice, because niggas don't notice anything. Not trying to infantilize them, but, like, I don't think women understand that, like, Allah gave us smarts and intelligence. My therapist said it best, and even my married friends say the same thing. Yes, they have good men, but even a good man is still a man. Take from that what you will. I think there's nothing really more attractive than a woman that, like, goes after what she wants but still doesn't beg. And I think a lot of us, and me included, had this idea about, like, approaching men. My therapist, shout out to her, one of these, I gotta get her on the podcast, but she has said to me one day when I was talking to her about interacting with men a little bit more, but I kept saying, like, why don't they approach me? I know when I walk in a room that people see me. Not only am I beautiful, like, I know that I physically take up a lot of space. Curvy gal, right? So I know my body takes up space. My personality, like, you hear my laugh, like, you hear me speak. I know that you see, like, how I dress, my makeup, whatever, like, my style, all of it commands attention. I know you see me, right? And I also have learned to peep when a man is, like, making eyes at me. So I used to tell my therapist, I'm like, I'm not understanding why my man not approaching me. I'm not getting it. And so she has to ask me, she was like, Tahira, do you care more about being approached or pursued? I said, ooh. Because to me, they were the same thing. I put so much emphasis on the approach. I didn't understand how somebody could not approach me but still want to pursue me. Because if you wanted to pursue me, you should have approached me. Right? Right? This is making sense? Right. So when she broke this down to me, basically that, like, the tea is, I think a lot of women have this idea of, like, this time where men were, like, shooting shot and so brave and da-da-da. And I'm sure that's true for some people. Men shoot safe shot is what I've observed and what I've learned. What constitutes a safe shot? That they can tell in some type of way that you're also interested. I think that if women nowadays are waiting around for a man to always approach first, or that every man is going to approach first, like, a man is just going to see you and just run up on you, even if you make no signs you're interested, I think those interactions are very few and far between. And another way my therapist put it to me is that, like, okay, you want to be approached. You can prioritize or prefer a men that approach you. And when that happens, you have this pool of men, right? But then she was like, what about all these other men that you've seen, that you're interested in, but you said nothing to? Like, you've low-key eliminated a whole group based off of assumptions about what it means that they didn't approach you. And I think for me, some of that was, unfortunately, when you grow up hyper-marginalized, of course, you end up insecure about some things. And so I think that for me, I felt like I needed grand gestures to really prove that you're super interested in, especially with Black women, with bigger girls, you know, men will want to talk to you in secret. And so I put so much emphasis on the approach. And just what I realized is, one of my friends made the correlation, because Muzzy girl life is Bridgerton. She made the correlation about, like, think about in Bridgerton times, like, you know, you drop your handkerchief, you know, like, there's signs that you give to show that you're interested, and the right man will then pursue. And so when my therapist asked me, do I want to be approached more or pursued more? I said the pursuit is more important to me. I could approach a man. And I realized that this is just talking about me. It's not outside of my personality to just have a friendly conversation with a man or a slightly flirty conversation. Like, that's something I can do. Now, if that's outside of your personality, I don't know what to tell you. But I had to really think of myself and be like, I do see men sometimes and I have a desire to talk to them. And I do hold myself back based off this idea, like, oh, men should talk to me. And so once I kind of like opened that door and just like kind of lessened the meaning of the first impression, I've had a lot more just like learning experiences, a lot more pleasant experiences with men. A long spiel to say that I appreciated the way that Janae saw that he had pulled Kaler. And yes, we see now that like doesn't prefer Black women. Ultimately, I don't think it's realistic to say that men approach every woman that they're interested in. And also, like, you as a person, like I said before, making this about self-care, your feelings matter. Your feelings don't necessarily have to be contingent on first basis, obviously, because later on I think they should be, but like your feelings don't have to be contingent on somebody else. You don't need somebody else's permission to express interest. If you feel some type of way, if you feel something, you should say something. And obviously we saw that it took a toll on her for like putting herself out there and constantly getting like L after L after L. KaNa like had such vitriol for Janae, which we find out that KaNa apparently has like a Black parent. Crazy. And then with Hakeem was not interested in Janae, but they ended up being like a friendship couple. They shared a kiss, whatever. I think they were both playing the game, and I think friendship couples happen all the time. It wasn't until Janae wants to get into a friendship couple with Hakeem, all of a sudden it's a recoupling, and everybody's like, okay, so the niggas sent Hakeem home, and the men expected the women to send Janae home. That recoupling, when I tell you I was irate, for them to sit there and basically say in plain English that nobody wants Janae, which as all Black women, what we heard is that nobody wants Black women. And literally they verbally said, there's nobody here for her, send her home. Also, y'all fave Miguel said that as well, by the way. That broke me. Yeah, that broke me. And I was seeing the TikTok. That was a moment that so many Black women are familiar with. And it hit a lot of us that like, we're not even given the same chance as other women. Obviously, we knew there was nobody in the villa that was interested in Janae in that moment. But it was the idea that like they was like, we got 1 or 2 passes. After that, get off the island. Mind you, Liv was there for how long? Like I said before, I love Liv. And even though I didn't want her to leave, it made sense for her to leave. She didn't have a long-lasting romantic connection with anyone. Liv was there for dumb long, but they would have never sent Liv home that early, the way that they were quick to send home Janae. I also learned a lot this season from that moment, especially with the recoupling, about the importance of friendship and female friendship. This season in general, even Ariana Maddox says she also acknowledged like the friendships and how beautiful they were. But I want women to know that in the pursuit of love, you need your friends. Do not let a man shame you into not talking to your friends, into not having a community. Obviously, there's like boundaries that you should have between like your partner and your besties and your girls. But when a man wants to isolate you, especially when he's treating you wrong, it's a red flag. I love that like Liv, especially this is the moment that really turned my opinion of her. The girls are just like, we're not sending Janae home. She's amazing and she's deserving of love. She hasn't found it yet, but she should still be in the game. And I don't know if other Black women, like yes, the men were on some like fuck shit, but I hope the other Black women watching saw, do not take yourself out the game, babes. Do not take yourself out the game because Janae got Kenny. I'm not gonna cry. Why am I gonna cry? Tyra, please, fucking hell. I love Black women. I really do. Yeah, like Kenny and Janae were my favorite couple. I did like them more than Serena and Cordell, but I'm gonna talk a little bit more about Serena and Cordell a little bit later. Kenny and Janae, it was so funny because so many people were saying when the Casa Amor came and like Kenny brought back that girl, and people were like, oh my God. And even Leah, this is what made me not like Leah when she was like, Janae, y'all was talking for 2 days, like relax. You're not a lover, girl. Okay. Nobody cares that it doesn't make sense for them to feel as strongly about each other after 2 days. They both clearly felt it because why else is Kenny sitting there crying, talking about, wait, no, don't leave. Like, and Kenny himself said, I don't even know why I brought that girl back. Obviously, like, Kenny deserved to have an experience on the show. I think it did affirm for Janae that he really did want her because he chose her, ultimately, even when tempted by other things. I really didn't like when Leah was like, oh, it's not fair. They was only talking for 2 days. Like, let him explore. And we do have to have a conversation about why men feel the need to test a relationship. Why do men feel the need to explore in a certain type of way? Why are y'all not confident about the decisions you make when you make them? Why are y'all so unserious when you approach women that like the approach actually means nothing? Like, that's the tea. The approach really means nothing if all y'all then need to double check that you actually approached the right girl or that you had the right intentions when you approached her. Like, maybe you should just think a little bit more in the beginning so you don't have to sit here and be like, I need to test my relationship. And it's crazy that like all the men had that sentiment about like, I need to test my relationship because they would settle. Isn't that disturbing? Let me just go to another villa with a whole bunch of bad bitches and let me just check with cute girls. Let me just find out real quick. What? So yes, we all acknowledge that like Kenny just got to the villa, and I think that his connection to Janae probably scared him a bit, and I think that's why he was like he didn't even really know for sure why he brought Catherine back, and even Catherine herself was like, yeah, it was very obvious like he really liked Janae. I think he kind of freaked out just a bit because it had only been 2 days, but trust a black woman to say the quiet part out loud. She's like, Kenny, why would you do that? Kenny, don't you know that I'm the love of your life? And Kenny is like, girl, why are you saying that out loud? I'm gonna give him a slide. Because once again, like men are humans, right? They deserve a full range of emotions. And I think Kenny went about it in a way that I feel like was very respectful. We'll get to Cordell and Serena in a bit. How I'm using Janae as the inspo for this whole video because I love her. Like Janae alone is a case study. Every move she made in that villa, I was taking notes. This moment with Janae and Kenny, when it was post recoupling, she was having a conversation with him. My eyes are literally watering. This is this is deeply unserious. They were both having a conversation and they both ended up crying. And I keep repeating to myself the moment when Janae said to him, he was like, oh, I care about you. And she was like, you don't care about me enough. When he was like, no, I want to be with you. She was like, you don't want to be with me enough. Like I was saying before about my experience of like talking to a guy, and he was great. He was cool, but he wasn't right for me. I think society and like our communities prepare us for how to say no to like the asshole, right? Like the guy who's just like not a good person. But I think it's even harder to actually realize that a relationship shouldn't, and Muslim women, I hope you hear me, a relationship shouldn't just be with somebody you think is a good person. That doesn't mean he's your person. And those are the situations that are hardest to walk away from. And even though obviously, spoiler, we know that Janae and Kenny are like literally in love. They made me believe in love again. When I tell you I was watching their edits on loop, love them. But I think that moment was so powerful. Janae knows what she deserves, and she knows the type of love that she gives, and she knows how she wants to feel. And when she wasn't feeling it, she was willing to walk away from Kenny, somebody she deeply cared about, because she cared about herself more. And that was so beautiful to see from a dark-skinned black woman on national television. And then to see Serena low-key, high-key say the same thing, like, yeah, you say you care about me, but it's not showing up in your actions. And because your actions are not matching your words, I do not trust what you have to say, and I will remove myself as an option. That is the epitome of standing on business. It's not just vocalizing over and over and over again what your boundaries are, but it's even being willing to deny yourself the thing that you want because that's how much you mean to you. Your boundaries ultimately are for yourself. People can do whatever they want. They can surpass them, they can meet them, whatever, but they're yours. They are an instruction manual not only for teaching other people how to treat you, but for what you allow for yourself. And that is the biggest difference between Janae and Serena and their relationships versus Kayla and Aaron. Kayla had moments of standing on business. Like you could tell that Liv was the female instinct personified. She said all the quiet parts out loud, and she was the moral compass in a lot of ways for the women to remember, like, stand on business, do not get swayed. Kayla did have moments, like for example, her and Serena did decide at the recoupling that they were going to just stay single. I've never seen that before in a recoupling, and I was so proud of them. Kayla also did speak up to Aaron multiple times. The reason we don't take Kayla and Aaron seriously, and Kayla specifically, is because she did not honor her own boundaries, and Aaron saw her not honoring her own boundaries. That's why he didn't honor them. If you are not going to stand on what you say, why do I have to? If you don't value you enough to listen to what you have to say, why do I have to listen to you? A lot of us women, we think that men are going to see it and change. What usually ends up happening is they see your grace as a sign of you being a pushover. A lot of the times when men think about a woman who is like a good woman, like a lot of the men that be talking about, like, oh, this is what I want, they're talking about a woman that lets them do whatever they want. Like Miguel, perfect example. And so it's like, well, okay, so if you're saying that the women that have standards and boundaries are not good women, then I'm riding with them because they rocking with us. You know what I mean? Like I'm rocking with them. I want to be with them. I want to be with Serena and Janae all day. Leah, we're gonna get to her a little bit later. I don't think that Leah was really standing on business, and I think that Leah desired to be chosen more than she desired to be respected. I think Kayla desired love more than she desired to be respected. Props to my good sis bell hooks, rest in peace and power. But if there's no respect, there's no love. These are the moments where like love for me, and once again, props to bell hooks, has to be an action word, right? It has to be a combination of what you feel and what is happening in the real world. Because even if, like Janae was saying to Kenny, I can feel that I care about you and that you care about me, but your actions are showing me something that it's not enough. Because if you really felt how you say you do, you wouldn't be moving like this. And I think it's important to hold men accountable for what they say and what they do. One of my good friends, Nadira, you guys know who Nadira is. She is the first person that has said this to me, that like you do not owe every man grace. And that certain things like grace, understanding, what a lot of that, especially like for Muslim women, Girl, you don't owe a stranger that. I don't know if we forget that like women marry and partner with our number one predators. Nobody harms women more than men, and yet we still choose them and partner with them and procreate with them, all of that. And give the wrong nigga grace and it will end your life. I'm so sorry to say it like that, but like that's how deep the stakes are. And for any man watching this video, like my number one ick with men is when they don't acknowledge systemically the position of power that they are at and the position of disadvantage that women are at. Don't sit here and say to me, oh, but she did this, so why can't I do this? Same reason how if a white person did something to you as a black person, it's different than if you do it. Because we're not on the same equal footing, and you have so much more power in this deeply intimate, close proximity relationship. As a man, you should be okay with the women being cautious around you. You should understand that you're going to have to work to undo that shell for the simple fact that you are the apex predator of women. You should be prepared to stew a little. You should know she's on guard. And you should be, as a man, if you are willing to like talk to her and try to, you should be prepared to weather the storm. That is my opinion. And the men that did that on the show are the ones that ended up with the baddies. I don't make the rules. I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're going to talk about forgiveness a little bit later because spoiler alert, the girls did end up forgiving their men. But similar to love, forgiveness is an action word, you know? Apologies, it's action. It's not just words. I love that scene. She was like, I'm not doing it. You know, I can't do it. Like, you don't care about me enough. But she said, Kenny, I care about you. Give me a hug. But F this? Yeah. With tears in her eyes. Sitting on business is not easy. Sitting on business hurts you. But it has to be done. It has to be done. And when Kenny was like, but I want you. He's like, okay, I don't think I want to be here anymore. And then when he went to Serena and Leah, and he was like, she's leaving. I hope no men that like are like anti-simps are watching this video, because if you can't tell, I'm pro simping. I think men should simp over women. Simping, that lowering of the ego, that humbling of the self that happens when a man is with a woman who has high standards, is the first step to allowing himself to become reconnected to his emotions in a society that does not allow men to have emotions. I'm sure it feels scary. Y'all seen those jokes online about like eldest daughters are basically like the men in the relationship. I'm not a man, but trust me, I understand. Okay, I've raised children. Okay, trust me, I understand how deeply vulnerable it is to feel yourself overcome with like emotions and like deep care, and that is trippy in a lot of ways, but it is a first step to reconnecting with that part of yourself that so many of us are so disconnected with. Similar to like I was saying before with shooting a shot, don't run from it, lean into it, because the type of love that so many of us say that we want requires deep vulnerability. And Nadira says this all the time, you can't be a coward and want love. If you're scared, don't get in the ring. If you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. Let's go to Serena and Cordell. Serena, my slow burn queen. I'm gonna be very honest. I have the utmost respect and reverence for Black women. I said this to that date that I went on to Amsterdam, and this nigga got so mad because I was like, Black women are perfect and can't do anything wrong. And I mean it. Serena is me in a lot of ways. I think a lot of us deeply related to Serena. And like I was saying before, I think men, especially if you want to choose and partner with Black women, you have to know what that comes with, and you have to be prepared to do that work with that woman. And before anybody be like, oh, what about reciprocity for the man? If a woman likes you, you are going to be set for life. You get that care and that grace and that understanding later. You don't get that off rip. Like, sorry, you have to earn that. I think people miss out on Serena's story if you don't listen to her, because y'all don't listen to Black women. And also if y'all don't understand that like the producers are basically being matchmakers. They ask the contestants for like their type, what their exes look like, all of that. They know. So Serena had said very early on that the reason she didn't even step forward for Cordell, even though that she obviously was interested in him from the minute she saw him, was like, hey Cordell, is because Cordell reminded her of her exes, and she wanted something different. She had obviously been done dirty by her exes. Think about in the intro, Serena said, oh, I love a short king. Cordell is so obviously Serena's type, but it only makes sense that if you've been done dirty by men that look and act like this, that you want to try something different. And I think that's why she went with Coy, and she said that's literally why she chose Coy. She wasn't interested in Cordell ever. It was just that Cordell triggered her. And you can just tell by the way that they fell in step with each other. Like they were in sync. They had a rhythm. They had a rapport with each other, a friendship that was so beautiful to see, that like they were each other's types. It was so very obvious. And I think for Serena, that scared her how fast she was falling for him and how much they got along and how alike that they were. And it only makes sense to try to guard yourself in that process. And I will say that every step of the way, Serena was very communicative, even if Cordell didn't like it. Like, remember during movie night, they tried to expose Serena saying to Leah, I like Cordell, but he seemed a little bit immature. He do seem a little immature in a lot of ways. Like Cordell is not necessarily like book smart, but he has emotional intelligence in a certain type of way that other men don't have. But I also understand her as a woman in her mid-20s, and people don't listen to Black women when they speak. She also grew up in a religious house. She herself says that like she wants like a traditional kind of like relationship, kind of marriage, like where a man is a provider. She's trying to choose something different from what she did before. And Cordell was just kind of like breaking through all of her walls that she had put up in an attempt to protect herself. And I think that was very disorienting for her. Now, I will say that there were definitely moments in the show where I was like, Serena, y'all are going to think this is an excuse. It is very common on the show for people that don't necessarily have, ooh, not thunder, child, it's raining. Hold on, it's raining. Let me make do up for my man. Ooh, y'all hear that? I make do up for my man. Y'all be. Okay, anyway, there were moments where I was like, Serena, but Serena was consistent in regards to being upfront about her feelings with Cordell and even being upfront with herself. And remember, Cordell went on a date with Nicole. Yeah, he went on a date with Nicole. They made out on the date. Serena never made out with anybody that she went on a date with. When the cast of guys came, she didn't do any of that, you know? And so it shows that like Serena was consistent in her standards that she set. It wasn't just the anti-Cordell thing. She really carried herself in a certain type of way. And once again, if y'all listen to Black women, it all really makes sense. Even post-show, Serena is like, I'll keep saying Kerena, my God. Serena said like, yeah, me and him are not living together because I don't believe in living with a man if I don't have a ring on my finger. It is something to be said about, okay, does a girl with boundaries that high, that solid, need to be on a dating show? Especially like Love Island, where people fall in love in like 2 days? Maybe not, but she won. She won. So now what? The way I have to say no, she won. They did that challenge, the dance or leave thing. She left Cordell up there, and people kept telling Cordell like, she don't like you, she don't like you. The men can do. I am not somebody that claims to be a feminist. Even if I have feminist ideologies, I don't like the phrase, I don't like the term. I believe in equity. I don't think equality needs to be there all the time with men and women. I think men and women are different. And I say that to say that, like I said before, men should push through the odds that may come with being with a woman, because when she lets her guard down and her walls down, you will get the most amazing, beautiful creature on the inside who will take care of you and love you and nourish you. I think men should stick it out. Do I think women should? No.
How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
That's my hot take. That's my problematic take. Whatever. What it means when women give grace to men versus men give grace to women. Like, what are we giving grace for? Like, if Serena gave grace to Cordell when he was messing around in Casa, that's the mess that you give grace for when you give grace to men. Cordell giving grace to Serena was her taking her time with every man on the show. Ooh. And even he was like, okay, like, I think a real nigga gonna write it out for his shorty. And it reminds me of Jack and Justine, who are no longer together, from Love Island Games. If you haven't watched Love Island Games, go watch it. Day one, Jack was like, yeah, Justine is in my top 3. And Justine wasn't really checking for Jack at first. She actually was like on a date with Curtis, and Jack was just like, that's my girl. Like, I want her. So go ahead and go on your little date, but I'm gonna get her. And he got her. But I do not think that women should be pursuing a man that is actively exploring other options. I don't. That is my hot. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Anyway, not literally. As I watch this, Kenny's TikTok pops up. Please, and then the caption says, "On my best behavior, Kenny." I want to talk about Serena and Cordell and talk about forgiveness. And it's funny because I think a lot of the sentiment around women nowadays is that women are so like cold-hearted and like we don't have forgiveness, we don't understand men, we're so heartless. I think Janae and Serena showed us exactly how to forgive and what is the requirement to forgive. Like I said before, forgiveness and apology, all of that, these are action words, right? Cordell needs to teach a master class in allowing Black women to have the space to experience the fullness of their emotions and being so secure in his manhood that he was not fazed by it. Now, you don't have to like the way that Serena did it, but Black people have a big issue with respectability politics, specifically when it comes from women. It feels like when Black women open their mouth, everybody is ready to jump down their throat and say something about how they say something, the way they say something, da da da. Even Aaron, I saw that post interview, he was like, oh, well, I really appreciate, once again, like I was saying before, who men say that they value. He was like, yeah, well, Serena was sitting there throwing pots and pans and stuff like that, and I appreciate that Kayla didn't do that. First of all, you line at, that's not even what happened. But second of all, Kayla feels like an idiot. The entire world is laughing at her, and you're saying that she's a good woman because she lets you treat her like shit. Right. Okay, cool. So Serena even let people know very early on what her attitude was going to be like. Cordell came back
and it was up and it stuck. And I relate. Like, for me as a black woman, like, you're always taught you're the angry black girl, you're the angry black girl, to the point where I'm actually scared of my own anger. Serena, you could also tell, like, post everything, she looks back at it with a little bit of regret because she didn't want to allow herself to get that angry. I would 100% would have been acting like Serena. Even flipping the breakfast, people are like, oh, I don't like that, I don't give a damn. She let it be very clear what her boundaries were, and when you crossed it, you have to be able to deal with the consequences. And I don't know why everybody acts like Serena was saying Cordell didn't have the right to explore connections. She said time and time again, Serena did not like the way that Cordell went about it. Like she said to him, you wanted to test the connection, you did it. I do not have to sit here and receive your behavior. You have the full autonomy to do your thing. I have the autonomy to do my thing. And too many men unfortunately have this idea that they should be able to ask Aaron to do whatever they want and a woman still be there. There are consequences to your actions. And even forgiveness, like, I could forgive you and not want to be around you. You know what I mean? I don't know why niggas don't think. It really actually like kills me so bad to see the way that they just like turn off their brain. And it was crazy watching the recoupling happen when they came back from Casa and the brain switched back on. What did y'all think was gonna happen? You have to be able to stand on business or whatever decision that you make. It's unfortunate that Kenny and even Cordell and even all of the men did not think that their behaviors would make them lose a woman, because men have this idea that women are going to stick around regardless. Men are not held accountable and they expect that in their relationships with women, and so it's the biggest offense when you do it. I talked about this on TikTok. I, like most young black kids, grew up in households where you're conflict avoiding. You're not allowed to really express your emotions. And if you do, you're disrespectful. No matter what you say, what you don't say, it's all disrespectful. The faces you make to what you say, how you slam the door, all of that, it's all disrespectful. I was taught that I have to eat my feelings. Also, because of like traumatic stuff that happened in my life and my family, there are very real dire consequences to when I speak up and try to defend myself. So I usually don't. I'm in the place of like unlearning that, but that has been a whole process of its own. But I used to be the person I was like, I don't want to be in a couple that's like always arguing, and that's because like yelling on a lot of that is like very traumatic for me. But I realized there's like there's a balance. Conflict comes with relationships. You know, there's a YouTuber, her name is advce, and she talks about how the friction, it comes from proximity. Serena and Cordell showed me that as long as you are with somebody that respects you and loves you, that the conflict is only gonna be a means of being closer to each other. Like, that argument changed the foundation of their relationship, and it showed so many things to each other, to them, but like to all of us. That argument showed me that Serena always cared about Cordell and that she was fighting herself. It also showed me that Cordell really did care about Serena, but he was caught up in the moment. And it also showed Cordell, I'm sure, that he didn't want anybody else. Like, he only wanted Serena. No man stands there and allow themselves to get cussed out like that if he didn't love that girl. And also, it's so manly that he sat there and he was like, let me hear it, let me have it, like, I know you got feelings, I want to hear it, and took it. Woo! And took it. Mind you, Aaron couldn't even fathom, he couldn't even hear the word casa without being like, Raw, shut up. So I'm like, what were you talking about? He couldn't even hear the word casa. Do you understand? Without being triggered. Cordell was like, as long as it takes for you to externally process, whatever I gotta do to get you back, I'm finna do it. That's a king. That is the only time I would accept forgiveness. If there is accountability, if there is space for me to process my emotions, whatever that looks like, and if there is consistency and persistence in getting on my good side. For a long time, I was holding back. I was like, Serena, don't forgive him, don't forgive him. And even with Janae and Kenny, and she was like, like, actually, I get it. Like, you just came here, you deserve to have an experience on the show. I was like, they're right. Those were moments where I felt like grace and forgiveness were owed and were rightly given in a time frame that made sense, and it only bettered their relationship. Certain things never happened again between Kenny and Janae and Serena and Cordell, and it just brought so much clarity. And it now makes me feel a little bit excited, not necessarily to argue, but like, a lot of black girls feel like they're too much for people, right? And like I said before, most men are intimidated by me. So it's this idea that like, you intimidated by me not speaking. God forbid I open my mouth. That gave me hope that I could, inshallah, find a partner that will see me and hear me and be able to take what I'm throwing out, obviously with love and respect always, and be able to still love me in spite, you know, that like my anger is not a deterrent from them loving me, especially like rightful anger. I'm not talking about being a tyrant. I'm talking about like, you wronged me and this is a natural response. Cordell kept defending Serena's right to feel like she had a right to be angry. And you know what was also crazy? Both Kenny and Cordell said that they knew Janae and Serena were gonna be standing there on their own, which goes to show that like, you give a nigga an inch, he'll take a mile. And they quickly learned these are not the women to test that theory with. And I love that for them. Learn that now. That argument just, it changed everything for me. I was like, wow. I keep having to tell myself, and I learned this in therapy, that like your emotions do not have like a sense of morality. They just are. It's what you do, right, with them that you can judge what's right or wrong. But there's nothing wrong with feeling angry, like to feel upset, to feel disappointed, to feel betrayed. Like you have a right. And your partner should be able, especially if they cause you those feelings, to see all of you and to know that you are more than this emotion, more than your anger. Once again, the deep reverence and respect for strong women was so beautiful to see. Even when they did the family calls, Cordell's family was like, yeah, that's a strong woman right there. I was watching the TikTok today, this girl was saying a strong woman is going to better a man, and a man should want what comes with that. And any man that's afraid of that challenge, of that pushback, is not ready to be in an equitable adult relationship. Miguel. And real quick, before my camera dies, I'm gonna have to change this SD card, but I really don't freaking want to do. I want to talk about Leah and why I don't feel like she's standing on business the way that the rest of PPG is. Like I said before, I think Leah has pick me mentality. I think it's because Leah has always been picked and she's privileged in regards to like finances and even like pretty privileged, all of that. I did appreciate her calling Rob a bitch. Because Rob was. So many of us fall for the gaslighting in real time, and Leah really was just like, no, you're actually wildin'. I respected the hell out of her for that. What I wished that had happened was that she stood on it. Obviously, we now know that like production made her feel like public enemy #1 because she did not like Rob. The reality was nobody liked Rob after that moment. The public still doesn't like Rob. Like actually, even Janae said like she doesn't like, nobody likes Rob, but you wouldn't have to be able to tell that from the show. The show really made us feel like Leah did something wrong. She didn't do anything wrong by calling Rob a B. I also think that the way they tried to like flip this idea that like Leah was such a terrible person, like I said, Leah's like a 6 or 7 for me, but I don't think that she was a terrible person, and I don't think that her feelings or her behavior was coming out of nowhere, you know? I mean, I hate that they tried to make her feel like that. Oh my god, I didn't like how Leah was acting when it came to KaNa. Once again, like wanting to be picked over anything. I understand that Leah wanted to get back at Rob, but for you to use your friend's man or your friend's ex-man for that is crazy. Now, yes, KaNa did pursue her, but Leah is a full-fledged adult. She could have declined the advances, especially because we all know she didn't like that man. Like, two things can be true at once. She doesn't take all the fall for that. No. But girl, what are we doing? Rob is a demon from the pits of hell, because the way that Andrea came in and he was so moved by lust, like he's a silent F-boy, you know? He was so moved by lust that he literally was willing to like discard of Leah. He did all that with Andrea, all this hoopla, like I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave, just for him to stay all after he almost told her he loved her, talking about I want to have this experience. I thought you found what you was looking for, Buki. And now for him to turn around and publicly be like, actually, I'm not into her, she want me too much, and now the whole world thinks Andrea is crazy. Is she a little crazy? Yes. That is Rob's fault. That is Rob's fault. You don't think Rob was sitting there whispering sweet nothings in her ear with that little fake ass southern drawl and them stupid ass overalls? Be for real. Like, oh. Yeah, Rob literally came from the pits of hell. Rob is the biggest villain for me this season. I don't even have much to say about Aaron, because I just feel like, even the fact that Aaron has done reality TV shows before, no, yeah, I feel bad for Kayla, but this is a canon event, and the fact that she's publicly saying now that like she knows Aaron is not good for her, like she knows that this relationship looks rocky, but she's gonna still like thug it out. Hey, that's your test, boo. Wish you the best. Thoughts and prayers. Couldn't be me. It is very hard as a woman to have boundaries, because the reality is if your boundaries were lower, you would have more quote unquote success or more options or more of a dating experience. The reality is, like I said before, the women that are super amazing, super successful, super strong or whatever, super beautiful, they're not having an easy time dating because the dating pool is not rewarding women who are standing on business. And that's hard. That's why like I understand Leah to an extent. I understand Kayla, because it's so hard to say no to love in front of you just because it's not good for you. Especially like post-pandemic. I don't think we really talk about like the loneliness pandemic, the awkwardness in regards to like now everybody doesn't know how to talk to each other and everybody's trying to go like celibate and all of that. That all stems from COVID. Even in COVID, we saw how people were literally like shacking up with people they shouldn't have, because being lonely, choosing loneliness, as a girl who's been doing it for almost 5 years, it's hard. It eats at you, especially so many black girls, so many Muslim girls. You've never felt love. That's hard. I'm not saying that it's easy to stand on business, but you must, you know, for the love that you really say you want. I'm somebody like, my definition of love is so strong, and I know that's the only thing I could take. I could not have a marriage that was not built on that love that I want, and that's why Muslim women always look at me crazy when I say I need to be in love before I get married, because that is the point. I've cultivated my definition of love and my standards and my boundaries around what I need and what I want as a person, and based off of my traumas and all of that stuff. And so without that, I couldn't even have a successful relationship. And that's what you have to remember, like the boundaries are there to protect you. They're there for a reason. And that's why you need to really take the time to cultivate your boundaries so that they're not just made up stuff that you found on TikTok. They actually make sense to you and your life. And they protect you. You know, it starts in romantic relationships, but it expands to other parts of your life. Like literally being able to be more vocal and stand on business with men have made me so confident in other aspects of my life, even like business wise, familial, all of that, friendships. Like I just feel stronger.
To wrap this video up, ultimately this season paints a very clear picture and draws such a distinct parallel between reality of the dating world and what's been portrayed on the screen. And I really appreciate people that put their lives on there like that. I know I can't do Love Island because I'm a lover girl. Now yes, my fellow lover girls did find love on the show, but it's just too risky for my heart. Like when Janae was dealing with all the stuff she was dealing with, and then even Serena like low-key seeing all the men talk about her or like encourage Cordell to do crazy stuff when she wasn't around, and then was judging her reactions. Yeah, that would have made me leave the show because my mental health is just like too valuable to me. And Black women have been internalizing ideas about and have been told literally since we're children that we're not worthy and that we're too much. And opening yourself up to falling in love feels like an open wound. I talked about this in my Confessions of a Black Muslim Lover Girl video. It's not something that comes without its own bouts of like insecurity and fear, but you feel raw, you feel open, as you should be, for the love that so many of us want. And it's important for women to see examples of women being loved on, of women's boundaries being respected, of men being willing to do the work to be with women, to show that being a pick-me and being agreeable is actually the worst thing you do for women. Like I have come to love the fact that like I'm not agreeable, that I'm quote unquote difficult. I actually love it because it has protected me from so much harm, you know? And it doesn't mean that there's not a place for my softness, but even as a hijabi, you know, it's not this idea that like you're not allowed to be beautiful or that you're not allowed to celebrate yourself or your body or share that with anyone. It just has to be with somebody that earns it. And I think that that's something that we should apply to our energy. And I just really appreciated seeing these things play out. And I just want to leave the girls with this, something that I constantly reminding myself and I constantly want to tell my friends and like tell other people. And like my newest favorite affirmation actually is that the love you seek is seeking you. Don't allow yourself to believe that the love that you want doesn't exist just because a certain person is not giving it to you, or people tell you like, oh, men aren't like this and da da da. If you have it, somebody else will as well. And so it's just about being patient. The whole dating process is quite literally saying no until you meet somebody worthy of saying yes to. That's it. That is literally it. And then you have to be bold enough and delulu enough to believe in the abundance of God and in the innate value of yourself to know that you'll get it and know that that's out there. Like I always tell myself, like, Tahira, Allah created all this. You think He can't create a man? But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Love Island. I cannot wait for the reunion. I feel like I want to do like a live watch party on YouTube because it's gonna be messy. I just feel like it's gonna be so messy. Also on Love Island UK, I heard that there were very interesting racist things going on there. No shock. But I would just love to hear you guys' thoughts. Were you inspired by any of the women on this season? How do you feel about PPG? All of that. Like I love kikiing with y'all in the comments. I'm not excited to edit this video because I always tell myself when I'm like ranting it's gonna be quick. But yeah, so let me just cut this short while I'm at it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out some other content that I've done. I appreciate all the love on my last video where I was talking about ethics and being an influencer. I'm so excited to put out more content. Make sure you follow me everywhere on the internet at Sincerely Tahiri. Stay tuned for the podcast. Join my membership today if you got the funds. If not, send me a dua, send me a prayer, send me love and light and positivity. I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye. That's a wrap. Period.